in terms of private sector should be able to help their game in terms of climate financing. That's the way I look at it. Yeah.
And the current drought, of course, the country, and not just the country, but Africa, most of the African countries have had, including Kenya, really subsequent failed rainy seasons. I think 5 to 6 failed rainy seasons, contributing to this drought that is now being termed as the worst in 40 years. So let's talk about what are some of the possible solutions now, because our main issue as a country is food insecurity. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Peter. The question that perhaps I'm asking myself, why do we have drought today?
Yes, and why is it the worst?
And I am tempted to say perhaps it's not even the worst. Maybe we have had bad situations before.
Yes.
My thought is that on this is that I think we have solutions.
Yeah.
They may take some time to implement because, of course, they need some time, to be able to be actualized. I approve the government on a couple of initiatives in terms of what the president is talking about, planting of trees. Because truth be told, if we don't do it now, believe you me, a time is coming when perhaps 90% of our Arab land can't give us food. And that means the situation will continue to worsen. And so people need to understand we are where we are in terms of drought, because people need to ask, why do we have drought in Kenya today? If you ask any rainman on the, walking, they will talk about rain. But the question I've always asked, does it mean that Kenya is so much dependent on rain to be able to produce food? The answer is yes. Are there alternatives to that? The answer is yes. The issue is we have not been able to capitalize those innovative solutions to be able to provide adaptive solutions to be able to give us that. And so if I look at Saudi Arabia, they are really irrigating. They are doing a lot of food production in lands that have never maybe received rain for the last maybe 50 years, so to speak. Here in Kenya, we are crying because we have not received rain maybe for 4 or 5 years. Israel the same. And so the question is, how do we put all the stakeholders to start thinking about the people in the villages? How can we support them to be able to understand, number one, that cutting trees in the catchment areas is a problem. That planting some tree species that consume large amount of water is a problem. It's right in the village now, people can be able to understand that when you tell them uproot this because this is consuming so much water, they understand, because they have gone so many days without the food, they are tracking so many distances to fetch water. So I think for me the issue here that is one is about awareness creation, and people need to be told the truth. Continue cutting trees, the effect is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plant trees, the effect is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that one will make people to start thinking, what is the role of utility as an individual in when you go back to your rural areas? Planting 10 trees will not cost you so much. You just take the trees and plant them and start watering them and look for ways and means of ensuring sustainably those trees have grown up. That will have consequences in terms of trapping CO2, that is, messing up our atmosphere, and other effects of planting trees. So for me, it's about awareness creation. It's about ensuring that the machinery of government, national government and county government, have really sensitized people on what needs to be done. And doesn't have to really cost us so much. I always say planting trees should not be a very expensive exercise. If all of us can be able to look at it from that, if I can be able to go to where I come from and think of how do I support our people to get water? Water is becoming scarce and scarce every day. Where I come from, a number of rivers have dried up. Why? Because there are some guys upstream who have really diverted water. And then what are they doing with the water? That's a question people should be able to ask. Irrigation. But some of those things they are doing, like yesterday I was in a certain hotel, let me not mention their name. And what shocked me is, these guys have maybe on 2 acre piece of land, as a garden. What are they? They are not irrigating or using sprinklers. They are using almost an inch, one inch pipe to be able to pour water on the ground. And I asked this young gentleman, you mean you have no other way of conserving this water? Why do you want to spill thousands of gallons of water just ensuring that the gardens is green? And there are some places in Nairobi today that are really being affected by lack of water. So that's why I'm saying the private sector also has a major role to play.
When you talk about irrigation, the notion that most people